Who are you?
I'm a video game mechanic that came in halfway into a franchise, and people on the internet argue over whether or not I'm good or bad.
Do you have the slightest idea how little that narrows it down?
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
You probably saw the thumbnail and title to this video, and are wondering what the hell am I talking about? And before I can get into how Mr. Redgrave can solve the Turnwheel problem, I need to talk about what the hell the Turnwheel problem is even describing. In Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, a mechanic is introduced called Mila's Turnwheel. This item allows the player to rewind up to any amount of time in the map that they're doing, up to the very start of it if they really want to undo any kind of mistake or bad RNG that happens to them. And though the name has changed between Three Houses and Engage, the concept of Mila's Turnwheel appears to be a main staple now, appearing in every game, and it doesn't look like it's gonna go away anytime soon. What I am describing as the Turnwheel problem lies in the mixed reception to the mechanic. To some people, the Turnwheel is one of the greatest additions to the Fire Emblem formula. Getting all the way through a map and then dying to like some 2% crit the boss happened to get on you is not a very pleasant feeling at all, and it really can kill your desire to finish going through a Fire Emblem game. Thanks to the Turnwheel, you don't have to deal with that bullcrap. If something horrendously unlucky happens to you, you can just hit the nope button, and very suddenly it's not your problem anymore. However, others feel as though it cheapens the strategy of Fire Emblem. If you can just undo any mistake, what's the point of even trying to come up with a sound strategy? You can just throw a bunch of crap at the wall, and eventually, with enough resets, something's gonna stick. Essentially, they're saying if you can't stand Fire Emblem when you're dying to 1% crits, you shouldn't be enjoying it when you get those 1% crits. Of these two divided camps, I lean a bit more towards the anti-Turnwheel side. I think the whole joy of Fire Emblem is overcoming bad RNG and celebrating good RNG when it happens. If you can just rig the world to never have bad RNG, I feel like you're missing half of Fire Emblem's experience. But on the other hand, I completely understand why people like it as a mechanic, because, yeah, dying to late game crits sucks, but sometimes part of the fun in games is the unfun, if that makes any sense to you. And considering you'll eventually be able to get up to 12 rewinds, I think it just gets a little excessive. But I did want to brainstorm. How can you take the Turnwheel and turn it into something that doesn't feel invasive, but still gives it for the casual players that don't want to suffer like that? Because at this point in Fire Emblem's life, it has a very large casual fan base. So you need to find a way to make the people who don't want to spend 5 hours on the same map happy, while also finding a way to make the people who want to spend 5 hours on the same map happy. It doesn't really sound like something that can coexist, but given the way that Fire Emblem has this audience now, it feels like there has to be something more that can be done to try and appease the two at the same time, even if that sounds impossible. But it was then that I remembered something that Fire Emblem hasn't done in 20 years. The rank system. Fire Emblem 4 through 7 had a ranking system where the game would, at the very end of your journey, judge you based on how well you did, how many turns you took to beat the game, how much experience points you got, etc, etc. And at the end, it would grade you based on a letter grade or an amount of stars. Now, maybe I was thinking that you could have the Turnwheel somehow affect this ranking system, and you could bring it back. But the problem is Fire Emblem's ranking system was completely superfluous. It didn't do anything. There was no tangible benefit for getting a good rank, other than Mark's epilogue in FE7 changing slightly, which, whoa. So then, maybe, I thought, what if the ranking system actually mattered? And then you could have the Turnwheel affect that. And that's when I remembered a certain wacky wahoo pizza man.
What the hell is this?
In Devil May Cry, there is also a ranking system, but unlike Fire Emblem's, It is absolutely vital to how the game is designed. At the end of every one of a Devil May Cry game's missions, you're graded based on how well you do, how fast you completed the mission, how stylish you were during it, whether or not you use items, etc., etc. And your reward is an amount of red orbs corresponding to your rank. In Devil May Cry, red orbs are essentially currency. You use them to buy new moves, buy more stats, and make yourself more powerful. Doing this means that you are then able to go through missions more efficiently, and because of that, you get a better rank on missions, which means you get more orbs, and you use those orbs to purchase more moves and stats, and it creates a constant loop of rewarding the player for good gameplay. And that is what I want to bring to Fire Emblem, because there's also a very important part to Devil May Cry's ranking system. Despite its benefits, you can suck ass and be completely fine. Yes, you do get a lot of red orbs for doing well in Devil May Cry, but you also just get red orbs for playing the game. So even if you get a bad rank at the end of a mission, you can still buy plenty of new moves and plenty of upgrades. It's something that a hardcore player will strive for and do their best to get a good rank on every mission, while a casual player won't really be bothered by it. And it's that distinction that I think Fire Emblem could really use. So my idea is to bring back the Fire Emblem ranking system, but instead of having it just be at the end of the game and do absolutely nothing, have every chapter individually be judged. And you can keep a lot of the parameters. You can keep how many turns it took to complete, how much experience you got, but you can also add a requirement for not using the Turnwheel. And you can make this rank matter by giving the player more gold for the better they do at the end of a chapter. And then you can easily have a shop, like Amy in Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, that is always around and selling powerful weapons, stat boosters, and maybe even skill scrolls depending on the type of game you're going for. Therefore rewarding the player for doing better. But a casual player won't really give a damn. Do you think people who played Sonic Adventure 2 cared that they got a C rank in City Escape? No, they were playing City Escape, they didn't need a good rank. So a casual Fire Emblem player will see that they got a mediocre rank for using the Turnwheel and not really give a damn, because to them, it's just a few gold. Oh no, now they can't buy the silver sword in the shop. That's no big deal to them. But to a more hardcore player, they're really going to want the benefits that playing well gives them, because that silver sword in the shop opens up so many new ways to complete maps faster and more effectively, so they're going to want to keep doing that, and then they can use the rewards to do better on next maps, and the same cycle that Devil May Cry creates can be brought to Fire Emblem. And it can even serve as a bridge for those casual fans to try their hand at more serious play. Because say someone keeps seeing that they get poor ranks, but one map, just because of how lucky RNG plays out, they actually come close to getting a perfect rank. Well, now that they've tasted this thrill of a better rank and benefit, they might want to try to do it more often, and this can kind of ease them into the concept of playing a more hardcore strategy title. They can go from someone who just plays Fire Emblem as a means to write their fanfiction about why the 45-year-old men should kiss, and it can turn them into someone who can debate with you whether or not you should kill off Olwen in Fire Emblem 5 to recruit Ilios, and someone that says with their whole chest that the best Fire Emblem game is Berwick Saga. Of course, doing this would mean that you would have to carefully balance how much gold you give the player, which is something that Fire Emblem has quite notoriously been absolutely terrible at, but I feel like with the right development and the right background knowledge, you could really make this concept into something that Fire Emblem fans would absolutely love. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes already had a ranking system, and you know what? Just like Devil May Cry, people laughed really hard when they got ass rank. And if that isn't proof that these two fan bases in games could learn from one another, I don't know what is. Thank you all very much for making it to the end of another video. This entire concept spawned from a group chat at like 2 AM talking about the Turnwheel, so if anything in this video seems too far-fetched and deranged, just know this is where it started. Before you go, please consider joining my Discord server. We have a lot of fun there, I put the link in the description. Toho and Yu-Gi-Oh! Overtake general chat like every other day. I don't claim to understand it, it just happens. Also, please consider joining my Patreon, where for as little as $3 a month, you can help support the channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. My patrons include the likes of Adebayo Thompson, Andrew Crockett, Bean Juice, Benz Again, Dr. McBackstab, Great Riek, Hell on Heelys, Ichigo D. Camus, Jaeger, Guts, Kenpachi, Shiro, Uzumaki, Kira, Krato, Matos, Char Ansible, Frederick, Sirius, Bolsara, Hakuman, The White Void, Justbesito 2, Lysevening Bolt, Mark the Valiant War Criminal, Morga Lorgan, Played Arrow, Ranger Man Sam, Shen Lu, The Fool, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stand, Walmart Greeter, Yo Girl Olwen, Brentendo 11, Drew Hack, Fire Moon Lord, Ginger, Goo Goo Gaga, Cornelia Milkers 92, Maple Knight, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you all for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next video, which hopefully has a less deranged concept. Probably not.